what do you think, and as you're teaching this to other business owners, I'm assuming, what do you think podcasting looks like and why businesses should maybe invest in thinking about a show or a podcast? And I'll frame it as a show because I know marketing showrunners is really big on the show premise. So I want to kind of throw that in there. But yeah, I'll let you kind of speak on that.
Sure. Yeah. When we define show, and we say podcast, we say video series, we say docuseries, we're kind of medium agnostic. We're almost really even project agnostic, which might sound weird because we're talking about shows. It's just that we happen to believe the best way to execute on our belief system is for others to make a show. So let me give you the belief system first, because I think it's really important, and it should logically lead to, oh, and by the way, you should probably make a show if you believe this. So I think there's a misconception, and maybe at one point it was true, that marketing is about grabbing attention. And I think that's so fundamentally flawed. And again, whether it was true in a bygone era, I'm not sure. I don't think it was ever true, but it seems to be the interpretation a lot of people have. Grab attention and the job is done. Awareness. If they only knew we existed, then the good things would happen. Not true. Awareness is not enough. It's a proxy for what we really want, which is affinity. In other words, the job of a marketer is not to grab attention, it's to hold it, because the job is to earn trust and love. And that stuff happens over time. So there's no one little magic hack or technique that'll do this for you. The only real tactic, and I'm using air quotes for those listening to the audio here, the only real tactic that works to hold attention is to build a better experience that people genuinely want to invest a lot of time with. You can't trick or coerce your way forward, which flies in the face of a lot of marketers. Nobody listening to this show, of course, but a lot of marketers are just focused on sort of the sneaky ways of gaming systems and grabbing attention. It's not the job. It's insufficient. It's about holding attention. Or if you want to treat other people like actual people, we can rephrase that and say it like this. Great marketing is not about who arrives. It's about who stays. So when you think of it that way, now you're in the business of earning trust and love. Now you're in the business of making things not to promote a product or a service. That's a byproduct. You're not making things to get downloads or views or reach. Again, those are byproducts of doing the real job well. The real job is making things that make a difference to your company, to your career, and absolutely to your communities. And so we just happen to think the best vehicle at a creator's disposal today is the show, because shows are built expressly to hold attention and to go deep in a world trending shallow. And so we can talk about some of the marketing benefits, and it sounds more marketing-y, if you will. But if you just strip away some of the terminology of our field and you look at the human element, which is, by the way, where we should all begin, making shows is the best way to make change and to serve people more deeply, because that's our job. So we should probably consider shows more fully.
Yeah. And I mean, there's so many great points that you made there. And the through line that I think, being that you're medium agnostic, is it's about telling the story to deepen that relationship, right? And that's the thing that people connect to, is the story, right? And this is like the 150 million year old thing where it's either writing on a cave wall or writing in, having a podcast series or directing a TV show. It's always about what is the storyline that you're connecting through with the audience that you're essentially trying to gravitate towards, or gravitate towards you.
Right. And I think it's easy to get lost in the interpretation of the word story, because some people are like, we have a brand story, and you visit their homepage and it's like, we help you optimize for Google search. It's like, not really. That's not a brand story. It's maybe what you do. It's not really how you do it or why you do it. And then on the other end of the spectrum, there's this idea that like, well, I can't tell Lord of the Rings level narratives here. Story to me is just three different things, and it applies in the tiniest possible setting all the way up to the grandest narratives. I call this the one simple story. It's just to remind you of what a story is. Status quo, statement of fact, something's happening in the world. Like I said before, marketing for many years, people interpreted it as grabbing attention, conflict that disrupts the status quo, but this changed, or this happened, or we realize this now. So the conflict, and that's where the arc starts to go upward in the narrative: status quo, conflict, and then resolution to the conflict. And if you have those three things, you have the makings of a great story. And that to me is like the like atomic unit of telling a brand's story, whether it's in a show or on a website or ideally all around, is just construct those things from the point of view of whoever you're trying to serve. So, this is what you're doing day to day, or this is what the common advice is or conventional wisdom, status quo. But we believe, or but this happened, or but we've observed X, Y, or Z conflict, tension, open-ended questions. And so here's our resolution. Here's not our product or service, but here's the better way, the vision we have for getting past this conflict that you face, dear listener or customer. And by the way, we're building a product or service to help hasten that vision into the world. Now, if you notice, I keep saying the word vision. It's because all these people we admire as visionaries, they don't see the future. They don't have a vision of the future. They have a vision for the future. So you have to have a point of view for a story to work, I think, at least in a marketing context. You can't just say, if you want that, we also have that, along with everybody else that we compete with, right? That story makes you an original. So it's wonderful for a podcast. It's also wonderful for a brand.
Thanks for watching. If you want to hear more of our conversation, head on over to tobeagency.co, where we have the full podcast posted.